let's go to the phones. Calling from a 509 area code. Who's this? Where are we calling from?
Is this moi?
Yes, it's Vu.
This is Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan. How are you, sir? Long time no hear.
Yeah, I died in September. I had a sudden cardiac arrest and was deceased for a little bit.
That's what I heard on
and
the
they brought me
grapevine.
back to life.
There you go. Well, welcome back.
He's risen.
Is this like a regarding Henry type of situation?
I don't get a shofar.
Yeah, welcome back.
There you go. Is this a regarding Henry situation? Like, are you nicer now to your family? What's going on?
Yeah, did you learn anything in the afterlife?
Well, I got to keep that a secret for when I do my right-wing grift pivot.
I understand, but you don't want to have too much of a lag time on this.
That's true. I got to get working on that, I guess. I did come up with some titles for the John from San Antonio video, if you clip it.
Okay.
Caller mansplains elections, gets demolished, all caps, demolished.
Okay.
He's so toxic.
John from San Antonio, embarrassed, all caps, and live call.
No, this is the thing. John, like, I'm just anxious, and this is just my assessment of things. But yeah, it does feel like people are panicking a little, and then, you read like Nate Cohn's write up, and it's like, there's barely been any change in the race. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Demolished.
Totally toxic.
Dismantled. Embarrassed, dismantled, demolished. Those were the three tags.
Silenced.
Silenced is a good one. I did want to say one thing about I like the Matt Cam, but does he have to have toilet paper behind him? I feel like that's a little distracting.
That's somebody sabotaging me every time I go to my shot. I see toilet paper.
Where is that? I don't see it.
In the closet, but it's closed.
It's closed.
Oh, we keep the closet closed.
Not always.
I guess not.
But that's because Bradley's not here. He's the one sabotaging Matt. I think we figured it out.
All right. So I wanted to make a micro and a macro point about immigration real quick, and then I got to jump. Excuse me. In the debate with the vice presidential debate, they asked J.D. Vance how they plan to carry out mass deportation, and he said that, well, obviously we have to start with the criminals, right? Mm-hmm. And this is maybe a small point, or I'm not sure, but that's what Obama did in 2013 or in 2011. There was the Morton memo where they said, we're going to start exercising prosecutorial discretion so we can focus on people like recent arrivals or people with criminal history. And Trump came in and got rid of all of that. He did the exact opposite. He said, we're no longer exercising discretion in any case. We don't care if you're a single mother of 5 kids and you've never been arrested. Like, if we come across you, you're going to be arrested and detained, and we're going to treat everyone the same. And then Biden came in and went back to a version of the Obama policy. So, I mean, it's just wrong on its face, to the extent that you agree that should be the approach, right? To focus on people who've committed serious crimes. Trump had a chance to do that and fumbled the bag, as the kids say, I think. Is that a thing?
I think that's a thing.
I keep hearing fumble the bag, and I did not know that. I thought that was just somebody was misspeaking.
No, I think it's...
Back in my day, you could only fumble a ball, but go ahead.
Anyhow, and then I guess the broader point, I think, is that we've gotten so screwed up on the whole debate on immigration, and it's really sad. I mean, there was this video I saw yesterday, I think, of Jake Tapper and Glenn Youngkin is his name, right?
Yes. We played it.
And, so Youngkin tries to pivot to migrant crime, and Jake Tapper says, quote, obviously there's a border crisis, and there are too many criminals that should not be in our country, and they should be quickly detained and deported. So like there's not any pushback from, not that we would normally depend on Jake Tapper to be like the champion of immigrant rights or whatever, but the fact that the majority of the country now supports
we have ceded all this ground, and there was also the sort of that, like, I'm sure you saw this probably conscious misinterpretation of a report from DHS that there were something like 18,000 immigrants who had committed a crime who were unaccounted for, or something to that effect, and it basically just means that they're probably in jail.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be so careful with those statistics because, first of all, they almost always come from not just like right-wing think tanks, but like neo-Nazi think tanks a lot of times.
Right.
But also, in a lot of states, it's impossible for undocumented immigrants to get a driver's license. Well, that's a misdemeanor, so that's a criminal record. And people might think, well, there's no way somebody's life is going to get turned upside down and ruined because of the driving without a license. But I've seen it all the time. And, you know, there was this time during COVID when people were celebrating healthcare workers, and we quickly moved on from that. But there was never a moment when we celebrated all the farm workers who continued to work without any PPE or protections. They had no access to the money that was being handed out or any of the, you know, those types of programs. And I always hate when conversations sort of hinge on immigrants being like cogs in an economic machine. Like they're people first and foremost, so don't get me wrong. But the fact of the matter is, if you've eaten food at all today, like I can promise you some part of that food that you've eaten has been touched or handled or packed by a person who's undocumented. And this is the thing that pisses me off the most, is they're the ones getting fucked. Like they are the victims of this system. It's not us, like regular white people living our lives. These are people who constantly are being victimized by this system that we've set up in order to take advantage of them. And
Yes.
I'm just...
Who was working at 3 a.m. on that Baltimore bridge?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, and it's example after example. And I saw something recently about how Texas has had to kind of, you know, back off some of their actions against migrants because they need construction workers. I mean, so it's all kinds of industries. We depend on these people. And the amount of lies and distortions and things that are just not true is it's really sad. And it's sad that, yeah, we've and it's not just a since Trump thing, although I feel like it's been accelerated, but there's just not any space now. I mean, even when Kamala did the Univision thing, she had to couch an answer and like how to help somebody who's undocumented. It, you know, it was all dressed in language of border walls and border security and all that shit. And I get it's an election and whatever, but my point is when you get to that point where you're underwater and on these polls, like you've already lost.
Well,
and I think frankly, they've exacerbated it. I think. I mean, if you do not offer a different vision for the way that we are disposed towards immigrants and immigration, if you cede the sort of like binary that this is a bad thing, I mean, it really is, frankly, similar to the abortion argument when, you know, in the aughts, when folks like Hillary Clinton and others, she was one of the most prominent, were, you know, we need to acknowledge that this is icky and this is wrong and that abortion is somehow bad. But, however, once you cede that that fundamental principle, all you're doing is chasing the Republicans' perspective on this. And so
Right.
there has been a fundamental turnaround. Instead of trying to sort of like make the point on the benefits of immigrants and the idea, I mean, there's multiple ways of approaching it. Benefits, from both an economic and sort of cultural, in terms of the durability of society, and then just issues in terms of just, sort of broadly justice. Once you cede that position, then you're just chasing the Republicans.
And also we've seen with the Tapper example that you brought up, Reagan, the Democrats, I used to think that they were just much worse at this than the Republicans, but I think it's that, but they're also choosing what they want to emphasize, which is like getting stories out there over and over again to force reporters to concede some of their points or frame it in a certain way. Like the Republicans are masters at this with things like Benghazi or whatever. But the Democrats are doing that to affect, but for issues that they feel like they want to run on, like January 6th and abortion. They've gotten the media to hear where they're coming from on this. They don't make their case to the media or to the public at all about immigration. And so what is Tapper's framing? It's all right-wing stuff because they're the only political faction that's talking about this in any meaningful way. And Democrats are just going along with it.
It's to me, and I don't think I'm special. Like, if you would have told me back when I lived in North Dakota, looking at how few people live there, and you told me that like 10,000 people from another part of the world were coming there, I would have thought it was good. I would have thought, and I would have intuitively thought like this is probably good for our economy, even knowing absolutely nothing. And you look at now, like just because I know North Dakota, there's a labor shortage with construction. That's one of the big problems with building houses there. And like the racism of training people when they see Mexicans or whatever to see invaders is disgusting, as opposed to people that should be incorporated into your community who you might see at the football game in the future. And also, yeah, having more people come to your city is good for the economy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you would think like the Springfield dog eating stuff, like I think sometimes we sit here, like if you have a normal media diet, you're probably thinking, well, there's no way this is resonating. But I remember in 2021, my wife was diagnosed with cancer and we had to choose, where we were going to do treatment. And we have a neighbor who, like in very serious tones, was like, you can't go to Seattle. You have to go to Spokane. Seattle it's too dangerous now. Like there's Antifa, and they thought like literally you can't drive into Seattle. And so the right wing has been very successful in being able to take people and make them afraid of cities or anything, migrants, and there's just no counter programming.
Nope.
Anyways, it's really disappointing. But
Yep.
Appreciate you guys. And
Glad you're still alive.
Yep.
yeah, me too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
And to Reagan's point there too, just like there will be right now the issue is beating Trump like at hand, but there will be lasting effects with the Democrats, I think, now tripling down on suburban voters. That's part of why they're not fighting back or offering anything on immigration, because of the dynamic that Reagan is describing. Like there is a massive moral panic about crime and immigration within suburbia, and a lot of those are some of the voters that the Democrats are targeting in this election, or at least that the national campaign is.
Calling from a 314 area code. I think you're probably going to be close to the last caller of the day. Don't know for sure, but if you're holding on and, hedge your bets. 314, who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Maupin. I'm in West Virginia.
Maupin from West Virginia. What's on your mind?
So, relatively recent watcher of you guys in like last month or so. Really enjoying all the work you're doing. Appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
My question is, I'm going to be hopefully soon getting into like more disposable income, and I was wondering who out there is doing like, you talk all the time about how awful the mainstream media is on Gaza and all these issues. Like, who out there is doing original investigative reporting that, in the coming year or so I could be supporting financially and could be, learning from. I was wondering if you had.
I mean, if you're talking about, specifically on those topics, Drop Site News is all, they're a smaller operation, but they're already doing good stuff. And Jeremy Scahill's, one of the better sort of like reporters in terms of that type of stuff.
But can you remind me of the topics again? Which caller?
I mean, I also like the American Prospect, but they're not going to be doing, the reporting on Gaza.
Zateo is one.
Zateo.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be
exchange.
specifically that, but
Okay, on Gaza, like foreign exchanges, the newsletter with
Derek Davison.
And Danny Bessner. I mean,
Foreign Exchanges is Derek Davison's, and then Danny and him do American Prestige. But Foreign Exchanges is a great. That's more of a newsletter type collation of a bunch of different stories, but that's a good one.
Well, I'm a paid subscriber to both, and I would say that, like, in terms of keeping you up on foreign policy, I listen to Colonial Lackhouse. I listen to Greg Stoker's podcast. That's maybe a little more radical, more anti-imperialist, but I do like getting that information from there because he'll have good examples of, like, actually Hezbollah is doing pretty well right now on the ground in southern Lebanon. That's why Israel's retaliating in Beirut, things like that you won't hear in the Western press.
Democracy Now! Is another place that's worth support, but that, again, like less direct reporting. But
Spencer Ackerman also has a great newsletter on Ghost IO. Spencer Ackerman does both original reporting and sort of like essay work that is worthwhile. Those good? Do you need more? Are you going to have that much more disposable income?
no, that's very helpful. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
Night.
Thank you guys.
Right. Trombone guy. I've been a Sederista since 2008. Wow. Just recently retired after working 54. Wait a second. 2008. We didn't institute any membership on this program since starting in 2011. Interesting. Nevertheless, here's your shofar. Very suspicious. You know what happens when you start to get in your mid-50s? Your memory goes. Been there. But you work through it, and then you just get used to not having any type of memory.
then everyone just accommodates you.
Exactly. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.